Another week, another team composition explainer, and this time we're talking perk. If you prefer to pick your enemies off from a distance and keep your best skins clear of all the dust that team fights tend to kick up, this might just be the comp for you. But if you'd rather dive right into the action, we've got you covered there with our last video on the dive comp if you want to check that out as well. And finally, do us a favour, drop below the video and perk that subscribe button if you want to see more vids like this from us. It's free and we really would love to see more of you around here. Now, let's chat about perk and how it could help you climb the Overwatch 2 rankings. Kicking things off with the basic comp, an absolute must in the tank role is Sigma. You can have Hanzo and a Widow or an Ashe in the DPS line, and for your supports you're looking at Zenyatta and one of Baptiste, Moira or Kiriko. For the why and how it works, you sit at a far-ish distance holding long sight lines and angles with the goal being to kill the enemy as fast as possible before they can close the gap and bring the fight to you. In terms of strength, it has an extremely high damage output, it's efficient at gathering ult charge due to the manner of how you play the comp, and it's very good at locking down areas by dominating long sight lines and angles on maps like Circuit Royale and Havana. For weaknesses, it struggles in close range fights and it's a lot weaker on attack for certain maps, and if you're looking for a way to beat perk, playing a dive comp into it is one of the best ways to go about it, closing the gap and smothering the enemy team before they have the opportunity to fight how they want. So there's the basics. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. You've probably heard the term perk composition thrown around or heard it referred to by another name, like spam for example, especially while playing on maps like Circuit Royale. A perk comp is usually made up of your tank playing Sigma, your DPS players on Hanzo and Ashe, or maybe even a Sojourn, and your support players on Zenyatta and Baptiste. There are of course variations on that, with your DPS being able to swap to heroes like Soldier 76 or Widowmaker if needed, and your supports being able to move on over to heroes like Kiriko for a protection Suzu. The only thing that will absolutely 100% remain the same throughout the hero swaps for a perk comp is that the tank will always be Sigma. That is a non-negotiable must pick for this to work. Now, back in the earlier days of Overwatch 1, this type of team looked drastically different. It was essentially just a dive comp with a Soldier 76 instead of a Genji, and would use Soldier and Zenyatta to pick at the enemy team with that long range damage. But that was then, and this is now. The goal of a perk composition is exactly what the name implies. You sit at a reasonably far distance from the enemy team and you perk at them, like the annoying little sibling you were destined to be. You hold long sight lines and angles in order to kill the enemy before they manage to get to you, or even before a fight can begin. Thanks to the Sigma and Hanzo, you do incredibly high amounts of damage to both shields and players, and if the enemy team plays out of position for even just a second, then generally that's enough time for you to fire out a burst of damage and eliminate them pretty much immediately. Thanks to the nature of the comp and how it's played, it is incredibly efficient at gathering ult charge with honestly very little risk to the team as a whole. Locking down parts of the map and forcing the enemy team to walk into your sight lines in order to get to the objective is one thing, but doing that and almost forcing them to take damage too? It's almost free ult charge at times and can be incredibly frustrating to play against if the enemy aren't ready for it or know how to deal with the barrage of chip damage. Not that it's always easy and effective though, the composition does struggle when fighting at short distance. Playing into something like a rush brawl composition, usually composed of heroes like Reinhardt, Mei and Lucio, will make a perk team struggle thanks to the close range it fights at. If the enemy team has some decent coordination, they'll all move behind the shield and block the damage you're trying to fire in while being speed boosted by Lucio, pretty much guaranteeing you a one-way trip back to spawn room. Easier to combat if you're working together, but one elimination is generally enough of your damage output to make a team fight very easy to lose. The way to avoid this is to play in positions where they allow you to move further back where there's little to no risk. For example, on the first point of Circuit Royale while defending, from playing on the first high ground up the stairs, whenever you see the composition first appear, start playing towards the door on your left and be ready to move through. And from there, drop off the bridge if they're ready to run at you. Now perk also struggles on certain maps, especially while attacking, like Watchpoint Gibraltar. The enemy automatically has the high ground advantage on you and you'll have a rough time getting any value, and more often than not you'll be rolled back to spawn before you have much opportunity to put up a fight. Overall though, the perk comp has held its strength over time, especially on specific maps like Circuit Royale or Havana. It doesn't need to have super high levels of coordination to be played well, though it does obviously help and benefit the comp as a whole if you have it, and while it isn't unbeatable by any means, the right amount of pressure from certain heroes will render a team useless if they aren't shut down effectively. So embrace that annoying younger sibling we all have living in our brain somewhere. Try perk. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to poke the like button if you enjoyed and found this little explainer video useful. Stay tuned for more of these in the future, and while you're with us here at GGRecon, you should check out this video, where we talk about another Overwatch 2 team comp, Dive.